The word obsession encompasses the mindset of everyone at Mossy Oak. We obsess over hiding from, chasing, and conserving the critters we pursue. In this episode, we follow Mossy Oak's own field producers Joe White and Jody Davis as they travel to Colorado on their first ever elk hunts. This is The Obsessed.
Yeah, so 1 year ago, this particular week, we were actually on site here at Three Forks Ranch, Jody Davis and I. The last day, everybody was tagged out. We were sitting around the lodge, you know, telling stories and all that good stuff. And I remember Rusty McDaniels and Kevin Tate, they said, hey guys, we're gonna try something new. We haven't ever done this, and let's go meet in the yard, and we're just gonna talk about Three Forks. And then just out of absolute nowhere, Rusty McDaniels, he says, well, next year when we come out to Three Forks, Jody Davis, Joe White, instead of running the camera, you two are gonna have the opportunity to shoot your very first elk. You know, every emotion that a human being tries to hold back, you can't do that. I know Jody Davis personally, working with him over the last 12, 15 years. I mean, the kid is absolutely crazy about going to elk country every year. He'll do it 2, 3, 4 times. And I saw him, you know, just break down, and I was so fired up for him that I think I kind of lost the excitement that I too was actually coming along on the trip. But it didn't take long. We were high-fiving, and Jody was like, I cannot believe that we're coming to Three Forks Ranch to hunt elk next year, the first week of September.
I know for myself personally, I've always dreamed of going on an elk hunt. That's always kind of my dream hunt. Think back to the first time I went out west at the Brazos River in New Mexico, and just from the very beginning it gripped me, just something about the West, and I always knew that I wanted to go on an elk hunt for myself. I always kind of thought that whenever I did get around to going on an elk hunt, I would be too fat and old to really appreciate the experience, because you know, this time of year is always our busiest with filming, and we're always out traveling somewhere, so neither myself or Joe are the kind of guys that are going to ask off work to go on an elk hunt for ourselves. And yeah, so it was a great opportunity because, again, you know, the West has always been very special to me. I've always enjoyed going out there, and it's always kind of that first trip of the year, kind of starts off the season for us. You know, it's a cool thing to step off the plane and take that first breath of fresh mountain air, and you just kind of feel like you're at home. Yeah, morning of day 4, we kind of changed it up, went to a different area on the ranch. Dave got out of the vehicle and he said, you know, here's the game plan. We're gonna go up the side of the mountain and chase after what we think are gonna be these elk up here. And we kind of start to take off walking towards these elk, and you know, right into the hunt, Dave gets about 300 or 400 yards away from the vehicle, and he sheds a layer of clothes, and he kind of looks back and says, guys, we're about to get aerobic.
Yeah, so at this point, you know, all we're doing right now, we're staying back. The sun is setting, because we know, anybody who's ever elk hunted know, as the sun goes down, your thermals start coming down the mountains. And we was just holding up, and it was really cool because we were all so fired up. We were sitting in, I guess, kind of the elk staging area, and we're sitting here and we're listening to these elk coming down this hillside. And John is sitting on the stump, and he's checking his wind checker, and every time the wind is just hitting us in the face, and we're just like, finally. And everything just started to click. And John kept assuring me, as these elk were moving down, there was a big meadow right in the valley of a big dark timber and had water out there. And he says that all we gotta do is get the wind right, and we can slip in there, and we know from the sounds, the cow calls, all the bugling going on, that whole bottom is gonna be full of elk. When we slid up there, got up to the hill and glassed and could see that water hole, there was elk all over that flat. When you become obsessed, it's a force that controls you. It controls the way you think about it day in and day out. You pour everything that you have into feeding that obsession. If that means staying up all night, if that means researching it, if it's going up the side of a mountain at 8,500 feet and you can't catch your breath, but there's a bugling bull up there, you're not gonna stop. I mean, you're gonna find a way to take that next step and take that next step. I mean, it does. It can, I don't know, it makes you do stuff and press yourself as a person to limits that you didn't know existed. And then you go one step past that, because you can't accept the fact that you got to the end. You know what I'm saying? You don't wanna fail at anything. You find a way to push up that mountainside. You find a way, you know, to turn the tractor lights on. Just because it's dark, it doesn't mean that you gotta quit for the day. You know, because there's rain coming and you got 40 acres of food plots to put in. To the guy that loves whitetail hunting, to the guy that loves waterfowl hunting, they go to extremes because they are so obsessed with that they want to find better ways, more ways to fuel that obsession.
Yeah, so I've always been obsessed with the West. Going back to my days as a 17-year-old kid going out there for the first time, there's something about it that just gripped me from the very beginning. But as much as I love elk hunting, I'm also obsessed with just the West in general. You get out there and everything is larger than life and totally different from anything that you've ever known. So you go out there and it is just an unbelievable experience, and each time you go out there it's totally unique. And I heard a quote one time about the West. A guy said, you know, the West never really seems real whenever you're there. It only becomes very real whenever you leave. That's how I've always felt about the West, is I'm just so obsessed with going there. No matter how much time you try to appreciate it while you're there, your real appreciation only comes whenever you get back home and the memories of the trip kind of grow and grow with the days. So to say I'm obsessed with the West and with elk hunting, you can absolutely say that.
I'm Mighty Joe White, and I am obsessed.
I'm Jody Davis, and I'm obsessed.